All right. It is a cliche to say that Americans are litigious people who like to sue each other. It's also not actually true. In the Western world, we rank somewhere in the middle in litigiositude, somewhere between the people in France who are too busy drinking and screwing each other to go to court much, and the crazy Jews in Israel who, as we know, are all lawyers. It's a joke. But it does sometimes feel that Americans sue each other over stuff that shouldn't be decided in court, like whether you need a warning on your coffee to tell you it's hot because it's coffee and you're an idiot, or whether you should be compensated after you got scared at an amusement park Halloween funhouse. The answer is no, and you're an idiot. Two important lawsuits are headed for the courts right now, but it's possible that the issues at hand should be decided not by lawyers, but by sensible adults in reasonable conversation. So my suggestion is, instead of suing, we should travel back to ancient Greece, find some sensible adults, and bring them into the present. Failing that, I guess we're going to court, and we'll talk about it. It's two lawsuits. One of them, a really interesting lawsuit as far as I'm concerned. Nick Sandman, or lawyers for Nick Sandman, have filed a $250 million lawsuit against the Washington Post for defamation for the things they said. This is Nick Sandman is the Covington school kid who was confronted by that supposed native elder and was called all kinds of things. Was told that just wearing a MAGA hat was a bad thing, and that he had a smirk on his face that made him just showed what a bigot he was. He was just absolutely slandered all over the press. His lawyers are promising this is just the first suit and there are more to come. And what happens usually is a lot of newspapers get away with saying stuff about people because the Supreme Court has basically decided that if you're a famous person, right, or if you are somebody who has injected themselves into a big news story, okay, then they can't just say that they lied about you. They have to show that they lied about you maliciously, that they had a reason to really want to destroy you, to hurt you. They didn't just make a mistake. Very, very hard to prove. Now, personally, I think Donald Trump can sue all these people and prove malice, but obviously that's not something we want people to do. We don't want people suing newspapers because they attack the powerful, even if they're wrong. I mean, even if their stories are just, like it's just biased, like CNN or New York Times or the Washington Post or ABC. Or NBC or basically everybody, but still, this is different. A lawyer for the Covington kids, Robert Barnes, explains the rules in this case.
Because these are all private citizens, and in many cases minors and kids, the law is that it's saying anything false about them is libel, and you don't have a defense of actual malice. It's all you have to prove is negligence. So a lot of these journalists have been saying false statements about these kids, false statements about the kids that are at the Lincoln Memorial, false statements about kids that were in various photographs related to the school, slurring and libeling the entire school and all the alumni for the school. And all you have to prove is that they were negligent in doing so. And by this standpoint, by this point in time, it is clear that anyone who continues to lie and libel about these kids has done so illegally and can be sued for it.
And, they gave them a chance to apologize, which they didn't do. Obviously, they're going to stand on their First Amendment rights. It is a big issue in England, where I lived for many years. In England, it's much easier to sue people. You just can't lie about people. One of my favorite lawsuits was a lawsuit by Elton John, who felt he had been lied about. And when he won the lawsuit, he came out and he said, poof is a British word for a gay guy. It's kind of a slur. And he came out and he said, you can call me a fat, untalented poof, but you can't lie about me, which I just thought was one of the great lines of all time. But this is something, Donald Trump has been saying we ought to relax the libel laws. Clarence Thomas and Antonin Scalia actually agreed with that. They said that people should not be protected, they should not be disallowed from lawsuit just because they're famous. It's too broad, and people should not be able to lie about you no matter who you are. Anyway, this suit, though, is a big, big takedown of the Washington Post, okay? It says, it called it the first and loudest media bully. It says in a span of 3 days in January of this year, commencing on January 19th, the Post engaged in a modern day form of McCarthyism by competing with CNN and NBC, among others, to claim leadership of a mainstream and social media mob of bullies which attacked, vilified, and threatened Nicholas Sandman, an innocent secondary school child. And it goes on and says, let me just find this. Oh, here it is. It said they ignored basic journalist standards because it wanted to advance its well-known and easily documented biased agenda against President Donald J. Trump. So they are really going after the Post for being the Washington Post. They are going after the Washington Post for being the Washington Post. Washington Post, where democracy dies in slavering hatred of Donald Trump. Basically, they're saying this was part of the agenda, but this guy is an innocent kid, and he got caught in the crossfire while they were trying to take down the president. That's a really interesting lawsuit. And the guys. Well, here's the guy, the actual lawyer, McMurdy, I believe Todd McMurdy, saying this has had real life consequences.
People were driving by, media vans were showing up. There were all types of Twitter threats. And so they basically, left their house in an emergency state and went and stayed with a friend. After that, our local Commonwealth attorney, who is Rob Sanders, had to coordinate a fairly extensive security project for them, so that he was in touch with our Homeland Security people here in this region, and also he was checking on threats, providing for police protection when they did move back to their home. And thank God at this point a lot of that has calmed down.
So, the problem they have, as I keep saying, is that they are surrounded, the Washington Post, all these news people are surrounded by people exactly like them, who think exactly like them. They don't know that being for abortion is an opinion. They don't know that, that saying that not every conservative is a racist, or that conservative ideas themselves aren't racist. They don't know that their definition of racism is a left-wing definition, and that the right is not being racist when they disagree with it. They don't know that, because there's a great story at CNN, and I'm reading this from the Daily Beast, a liberal paper. CNN staffers are upset and confused about the I know I don't want to hurt your feelings. I know you're brushing away a little tear that the CNN staffers are upset and confused, but wait till you hear what it's about. They're confused about the network's decision to hire a partisan political operative to oversee its 2020 campaign reporting. On Tuesday, a CNN spokesperson confirmed to the Daily Beast that the network has hired Republican political advisor Sarah Isgur as the politics editor helming CNN's 2020 coverage. The move was first reported by Politico. Throughout her decade-long career in Republican politics, Isgur has served as an advisor to Ted Cruz and Mitt Romney, and was Carly Fiorina's deputy campaign manager. Until last year, Isgur was a top spokesman for former Attorney General Jeff Sessions' Department of Justice. A CNN spokesperson said Isgur will not be involved in the network's DOJ coverage, but will guide TV and digital coverage of the election. It's extremely demoralizing for everyone here, one network editorial staffer told the Daily Beast. People are generally confused. Another editorial employee said, it's very bizarre. Okay, it's very bizarre. Now, this is CNN, right, where Chris Cuomo of the Cuomo dynasty, the left-wing Democrat Cuomo dynasty, is a commentator, but he's absolutely, completely, non-biased. There's no problem there. This is the thing. They don't know. George Stephanopoulos is the chief newsman at a major network, and I know I kind of use him as a whipping boy, but still, it is amazing, an amazing act of corruption to appoint this guy to head your news staff on a network. This is not cable TV. This is a network. I've played this before. I'm going to play it again. Here is George Stephanopoulos during the Bill Clinton campaign. His job was to defend Bill Clinton from what they called, their words, bimbo eruptions, namely women who came forward saying Bill was chasing them around the room or even raping them, they were popping up all over because Bill mistreated women. And this was what he was doing. And with Hillary's absolute encouragement and conviction and involvement, here is just a video that they were proud of at the time of him intimidating a reporter into silence.
I guarantee you that if you do this, you'll never work in Democratic politics again. Maybe you don't want to. I'm not saying it matters. You will be embarrassed before the National Press Corps. People will think, nobody will believe you, and people will think you're scummy. The alternative is you don't do it. It causes you some temporary pain with people who tomorrow aren't going to matter. And you have a campaign that understands that in a difficult time, you did something right. And that's important. I mean, it doesn't mean anything, or we can't do anything for you specifically or anything like that, but you know that you did the right thing and that you didn't dishonor yourself.
That's Stephanopoulos, who heads ABC News. Maggie Haberman, who was exposed in an email hack as a friendly for the Clinton campaign, who they used to plant friendly stories, is now the White House correspondent, ran a ridiculous piece I think it was this morning, about Trump is trying to stop the Russia investigation, which was basically about Trump complaining about the Russia investigation. All these people left the news business and went to join the Obama administration, and then some of them came back. Former Time magazine correspondent was Jay Carney. He was the Obama spokesman. ABC News' Linda Douglas joined the White House to help push Obamacare, and then returned to the Atlantic. The Chicago Tribune's Jill Zuckman, a political correspondent, became spokeswoman for Ray LaHood, the transportation secretary. Jim Scudo, who left ABC News to work for U.S. Ambassador to China, Gary Locke, before returning to a media job at where? CNN. They do not know what they do not know. They do not know they're inside the bubble. And it's not a bubble, it's an iron lung. They don't know that they are surrounded by people who agree with them. My only problem with this lawsuit is that I don't like to see the press on trial. I want the press to be free, even though I despise them. Even though I despise how they use their freedom, I want to defend that freedom. That freedom is more important than the fact that they're corrupt and despicable. I want them to reform themselves. I think the guys have a case on this. I think they have a good case. I think they're doing something that, in a way, needs to be done. I wish it didn't have to go through the courts, because I do not want to see our First Amendment rights abridged in any way. I wish this were the kind of thing where the lawyers had gone to them and said, you messed up, and what we want you to do is hire some conservatives and have a balanced report, and they did it. That would be reasonable adults talking reasonably and taking reasonable action. When it goes to the courts, it's dangerous, but I think they have a case.